Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. The final act ended with a standing ovation. The parents were proud. The kids were buzzing backstage. But by midnight, the school principal was dead, locked inside his office. And someone left a Shakespeare quote scrawled on the mirror in blood-red lipstick. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. Macbeth. And suddenly, the star of the show wasn't a student. It was a drama teacher. Oakridge High School in Missouri prided itself on values: faith, family, discipline. It was the kind of place where teachers doubled as church leaders. And scandals were things that happened elsewhere. Principal Charles Donnelly, 49, was respected, feared, and always watching. A devoted husband, a father, a pastor, but also a man with power. The kind of power no one dared question. And then there was Madeline Shaw, the new drama teacher. Creative, magnetic, a little too bold for a conservative town. Some said she brought theater to life. Others said she brought trouble. April 7th, 2023. The spring play Macbeth was the biggest event of the year. Madeline directed it with obsessive precision. Even Principal Donnelly made a rare appearance, sitting front row with his wife. By 10:15 p.m., the curtains closed. By 11:42 p.m., Donnelly's body was discovered by a janitor. The office door had been locked from the inside, but maintenance report later confirmed the lock had been tampered with. On the mirror, in red lipstick, that quote from Macbeth, and on the floor, a school trophy with blood on its base. No signs of a break-in, no fingerprints, no security footage. Police combed to the school overnight. The first thing they noticed, Madeline's car was still in the parking lot, but she was nowhere to be found. Inside her classroom, a bottle of red lipstick, matching the mirror message, a torn cloak from the Macbeth costume set, a plane ticket to Belize, booked in her name, and a second ticket in Charles Donnelly's. By 3 a.m., a warrant was issued for her arrest. The deeper they dug, the darker it got. Turns out, Donnelly and Madeline had been involved in a secret affair. A hidden email account revealed months of messages, some flirtatious, some angry, some threatening. But there was something else. Madeline had recently confided in a colleague that Donnelly had become dangerous. He told her if she ever exposed him, he'd ruin her. She said, quote, "I'm not the only one he's hurt." That colleague ignored her. Now he wishes he hadn't. Police eventually found Madeline 2 towns away, hiding in a roadside motel. She didn't run. She didn't deny the affair, but she did deny the murder. Instead, she dropped a bombshell. "You're looking at the wrong person. I didn't kill him. My brother did." Her 16-year-old brother, Eli Shaw, was a student at the same school. Quiet, troubled, protective. Madeline claimed he found out about the affair and what Donnelly had allegedly done to other girls, and that he wanted to protect her no matter what it took. Police brought Eli in for questioning. He was calm, polite. He even smiled until they asked about the cloak. That's when he said, "You don't get it, do you? This was never just a play." Then he leaned in and whispered. He wasn't the only one who had to die. The principal of Oakridge High was found dead hours after the school's spring play. A Shakespeare quote was written in red lipstick. The drama teacher, Madeline Shaw, became the prime suspect. But in a shocking twist, she claimed her teenage brother Eli was the killer. And then Eli said something no one was prepared for. He wasn't the only one who had to die. 2. Magnifying glass still to left investigation deepens. Eli was arrested that night. He said it wasn't murder. It was justice. Justice for his sister. Justice for the others. Eli claimed Donnelly had been abusing his power for years. That girls at the school had been groomed, isolated, and silenced. Some left town. Others dropped out. But no one had ever come forward. And Eli said it was because Donnelly was protected by the church, by the school board, even the local police. Then he mentioned a name. Rachel Voss, a 19-year-old who graduated 2 years ago. Straight A student, former theater kid, missing, no contact with friends. No social media activity. Reported as a runaway, but never found. When detectives reopened Rachel's file, they found a note in the original report. Possible issues at school, but principal assured parents she was emotionally unstable. Case closed. Her parents declined interviews, but Rachel's old friend, Maya, agreed to talk. In a trembling voice, she said, Rachel used to go to Mr. Donnelly's office a lot. He said she needed counseling, but she wasn't the same after. She started cutting off friends. She was terrified of someone. Then Maya handed police something Rachel gave her before she disappeared. A small flash drive, labeled Confessions. What was on the flash drive broke the case wide open. Multiple video recordings, shaky camera angles, all taken secretly in the school's counseling office. In one, Donnelly can be heard whispering, "No one will believe you. They never do." In another, "You owe me silence, after everything I've done for you." And in a third, a girl who looks like Madeline, much younger, sits across from him, eyes downcast, shaking. It wasn't just recent. It had been happening for years. Suddenly, the lipstick message on the mirror made more sense. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. Macbeth, this wasn't just revenge. This was a production. Every detail, from the murder weapon to the quote, had been staged by Eli and Madeline to send a message. But something was still missing. Why was Eli so certain that he wasn't the only one who had to die? 3 days after Eli's arrest, another body was found. Pastor Gregory Pike, Donnelly's closest friend, church elder, and mentor, was discovered in his home, an apparent suicide. But the positioning of the body raised eyebrows. On his chest, a Bible, open to Psalm 94, verse 7. They say, "The Lord does not see. The God of Jacob takes no notice." And underneath the Bible, another Macbeth quote, "What's done cannot be undone." It matched the handwriting from the principal's mirror. Detectives now had 2 dead men, 1 confession, and a growing list of possible victims. But the case had only scratched the surface, because just before part 2 ends, Madeline requests another interview. She leans in slowly and says, "Donnelly, Pike, they were just the beginning. There's a whole list, and I can tell you who's next." Detective Miles Harlan met with Madeline in jail, tape recorder rolling. She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. 8 names, all men, all leaders, school board members, church elders, coaches, all connected to Oakridge High. According to Madeline, these men had operated in secrecy for years, protecting each other, silencing girls, and using their power as cover. She called them the elders, a sick, self-appointed council of untouchables. And she said Charles Donnelly was their enforcer. At first, police were skeptical, until they got a call. An anonymous voice, female, shaking, said only she's telling the truth. I was 15 when it started. Donnelly wasn't working alone. She hung up before they could trace it. But the next day, a man on Madeline's list, Coach Victor Mays, resigned suddenly from his position after 36 years. No explanation, no farewell, just gone. And that's when investigators started connecting dots. In almost every case of reported emotional instability, disciplinary transfers, or student withdrawals in the past 15 years, one of those 8 men had signed off the paperwork. Detective Harlan opened old files, dozens of them. One caught his attention. Natalie Briggs, age 14, withdrawn in 2014 for mental health reasons. She had reported being touched inappropriately during detention. The report was signed by Principal Donnelly and Pastor Pike. Natalie's parents were never contacted. The school counselor retired that same month. The counselor's name? Elaine Shaw, Madeline and Eli's mother. Yes, their own mother had been part of the system. When confronted, Elaine broke down. She claimed she tried to speak out years ago, but they threatened her, told her she'd lose everything. Her job, her children, her reputation. So she stayed silent, until the guilt hollowed her out from the inside. she said. I didn't know what they were doing to Madeline. I should have protected her, but I didn't. Now it made sense. Madeline hadn't just snapped. She'd grown up inside the monster. And Eli, he was trying to burn it down. Days later, another name on the list turned up dead. Daniel Acker, chairman of the school board, found drowned in his own backyard pool. No signs of forced entry, but written in waterproof marker on the pool tiles. Hell is murky. Macbeth Act V, same handwriting. That made 3 men dead. 5 names left. The town was unraveling. Lawyers were getting involved. Church services were suddenly canceled. And then Eli escaped. He overpowered a guard during a transport to court, slipped out through a fire exit, and disappeared. He left only one note in his holding cell. It read, "Madeline told you who's next. I'll take care of the rest." Within hours of Eli's escape, Oakridge went into lockdown. Roadblocks, chopper patrols, media swarming. Parents kept kids home. Church services were suspended. The boy who once blended into background was now the most wanted face in Missouri. But Eli wasn't hiding. He was hunting. 2 days later, a plain cardboard box was delivered to the Oakridge Police Department. No return address. Inside, a burned church directory. 8 circled names. 3 were crossed out. 1 had a red X on it. That name was Pastor Richard Lorne, the longest-standing clergyman in Oakridge and godfather to Charles Donnelly's children. Attached to the package was a note written in jagged red marker. He held the door open. I closed it. Police rushed to Lorne's home, but it was too late. He was found in his garage. Exhaust fumes. Windows sealed. Cause of death, carbon monoxide poisoning. Staged beside him was a wooden cross, and nailed to it a theater mask. Comedy on one side, tragedy on the other. At this point, Oakridge PD wasn't just looking for Eli. They were unraveling a timeline of corruption that stretched back decades. The press began calling it the curtain call killings. Every death was linked to a known member of the church or school leadership. And now, the question wasn't if Eli would strike again. It was when. Madeline, still in jail, remained disturbingly calm. When asked if she knew where Eli might be, she said, "He's exactly where he needs to be. He always had a role to play. I just gave him the script." Then, the most unexpected twist yet. A phone call came into the local news station. The caller identified herself as Rachel Voss, the girl believed to have vanished years ago after accusing Principal Donnelly. She was alive, and she had one thing to say. "You're focusing on Eli, but what about the other boys? The ones no one talks about. The ones they turned into monsters." The line went dead. Back in Madeline's old journals, a disturbing pattern emerged. Eli wasn't just protecting her. He had been conditioned by her. From a young age, she fed him stories of men who hurt girls and got away with it. Donnelly, Pike, Lorne, Mays. To Eli, they weren't real people. They were villains in a script. And he was the executioner. In one entry, Madeline wrote, "If I can't fix the system, I'll raise someone who will." Then a video surfaced. Eli, wearing a black cloak and standing in a candlelit basement. He spoke directly to the camera. The play is almost over. But before the curtain falls, one final act. You always call them leaders. I call them liars. And you know who you are. I'm coming. For men dead. A teenage fugitive on the run. A town drowning in silence, guilt, and buried secrets. Eli Shaw, just 16, had become a ghost in Oakridge. He wasn't just killing men. He was rewriting history. And in a video sent to local police, he warned, "I'm coming. You know who you are." Of the 8 names on Madeline's original list, 7 were accounted for dead, 2 in hiding, 1 missing. But the last name, the one not yet touched, Superintendent Glenn Halvorson, the man who hired Donnelly, who dismissed every complaint as rumor, who slashed counseling budgets while building the school's $2 million stadium. The community called him a visionary. Madeline called him something else. The producer, the one who kept the lights on while the scenes played out in the dark. Knowing he was a target, Halvorsen was placed under 24-hour police protection. But Eli didn't need to get to Halvorsen. He made Halvorsen come to him. On April 21st, Halvorsen's daughter, Emily, a senior at Oakridge High, vanished from a parking lot after soccer practice. Her phone was found on the passenger seat, her wallet untouched, and on the windshield, a single quote on a sticky note: "What's done cannot be undone." 48 hours later, Halvorsen received a message on his private phone: "Come to the auditorium." Alone, curtain call. He went. The school was empty. The lights dimmed. A single spotlight illuminated the stage. And there, seated in the front row, was Eli. Next to him, Emily, alive, unharmed, tied but calm. On stage, a single folding chair, and a noose hanging above it. Halvorsen screamed, reached for his daughter, but Eli raised a hand and said, "You told my mother to ignore it. You told Rachel's parents she was mentally unstable. You said Donnelly was your best man. So now you get to watch the scene you helped create." Just before Eli could act, armed officers stormed the building. Emily was pulled to safety. Eli dropped to his knees, calm and eerily silent. He didn't run. He didn't resist. As officers dragged him away, he looked Halvorsen in the eyes and said, "She got to live. That's more than you gave the others." Madeline Shaw took a plea deal: 15 years, voluntary manslaughter, conspiracy to commit murder. She gave full statements, naming names, dates, locations. In court, she said, "I was raised in a lie, groomed to stay silent. I didn't raise a killer. I raised a mirror." And the town finally saw its reflection. Eli Shaw was tried as an adult. The trial lasted 19 days. He was found guilty of 3 counts of murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and multiple counts of aggravated assault. Sentenced to life with possibility of parole after 30 years. He was 17 when the sentence was handed down. The Oakridge High auditorium was shut down indefinitely. The church dissolved. 5 more victims came forward. A civil lawsuit against the Oakridge School Board resulted in a $12.7 million settlement. Emily Halvorsen transferred out of state. She hasn't spoken publicly since. As for Oakridge, it's quieter now. No more spring plays. No more sermons on purity and discipline. Just silence. And somewhere in a state correctional facility, a young man writes in his journal every day. A final entry, leaked by an anonymous guard, read, "Maybe we were wrong. Maybe we were right. But at least now, everyone knows what really happened after the school play. What started as a tragedy became a reckoning, and what looked like senseless violence was, in truth, a carefully directed act of justice, written by pain, performed by rage, and remembered in silence." What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.